Good morning, Tim from Alpha Wolf Trading coming at you with this morning's pre-market prep with stocks to watch for trading and investing. Let's go ahead and just hop right into it. NTNX, which reported last night after the close, had an initial reaction of being down. Uh, let's see, I think it got down to around 29 bucks or something to that effect, and then bounced right back, gapping higher. I would not chase the gap. I would look for maybe a pullback to an area of support for NTNX. And let me punch this up right now and see exactly what it's doing in pre-market. So it got down to about 29.50 last night, and then it's sitting at 35.20 this morning. So a big area of potential resistance is in this $35 area. Had come up into that in the past. It's acted as resistance and pulled back. We are taking that out in pre-market. Volume is so. Like I said, I wouldn't chase this. Maybe you look for a pullback to $32 or so. See if that holds for a support. You get a red to green move. Could be a day trade opportunity, could be a swing. 106 million shares in the float, so it is a bit of a thicker float stock, but definitely worth keeping an eye on NTNX for a day trade or swing opportunity. All right, let's keep moving here. CLRO. So this could be a day trade. This could be a higher risk swing because it is a small float. This traded 300,000 shares yesterday, and there was a 10% owner that picked up 300,000 shares in November, and that was posted yesterday. So it's flirting with $7 holler. It's not a good looking chart. It is in a long downward trend, dominant downward trend. But when you see this kind of insider or 10% owner activity, this could be an indication that we're near a bottom. Could look for maybe this gap. It is gapping to about $7.50. You've got the 50-day moving average just overhead as potential resistance. You could look for this to pull back and retest this 670, 650 area. Maybe get a double bottom test and then a bounce. 5.6 million shares in the float. Very small float. Worth keeping an eye on this for either a day trade opportunity or maybe a higher risk swing on a pullback to 670, 680. Breaks below 650, maybe you look to get out, right? But pretty interesting opportunity there, I think, for a day trade or higher risk swing on a pullback to support. RMBL. So this is a new reverse merger. Pretty interesting little company here. Just had a press release after the close yesterday about a partnership with leasing. What this company does is basically sells motorcycles, looking to get into ATVs and boats, I believe. It's a pretty interesting story. High risk, right? 2.5 million shares in the float. Very tiny float. A very thin trader. 29,000 shares traded hands yesterday. So very thin trading stock. High risk potential swing. Companies really just kind of coming along, or just getting rolling here. I would expect that you'll see more press releases in the near term, and maybe this thing gets a nice pop off of some good news. It looked like in their last earnings they expect to do 100 million in revenue, and they expect to be profitable. So pretty interesting little compelling play here. Like I said, high risk lottery type play, but one that maybe you consider just dipping your toe in slowly and see how it plays out. But if they get a good, good pop on some good volume, could be a good scalp opportunity too. Look for a 6 test and roll. There is a gap to fill on the daily. So if you get a real good volume day with some liquidity, you get a nice run. Maybe you get an opportunity to scalp it, take it for a day trade. And if you pull back, actually, if it were to pull back to 4, so full disclosure, I have a little starter position in this thing. If it were to pull back, to 450, I would likely add. Pull back to $4, I would add more. It's a high risk lottery ticket that I'm trying to build some size in, but I don't want to do it all in one swoop. I don't want to be the guy that makes this thing move, by taking a bunch of size, right? And then get stuck in it. So just looking to build it out over time, but worth keeping an eye on our MBL. RSYS, I think this is one of the funniest PRs I've seen in a long time. The Radisys secures 5 million order from a large Asian customer. If you read that press release, they must bring up the large Asian customer, I think, 3 times. It is gapping a little this morning, tested 90 cents. This is an ugly, ugly chart. I would not chase this thing. Could it get some good action today as a potential day trade? Possibly. 37.9 million shares in the float. I think the press release was actually kind of horrible, a little bit fluffy, but could be an opportunity there. Do not chase this thing. Do not chase RSYS. Day trade only. AIRI, buddy of mine sent this to me the other day. I do find this kind of interesting. Aerospace defense play, ugly chart, ugly long-term chart, but it has been consolidating and basing for a while. Looks like 130 is kind of holding its price support. Good. This has only got 12 million shares in the float. Good press release, and maybe you take out that 50-day, go up and test that 155 area, take out 160, and that's a big spot to break out from, right? Break out of that range. So I think this is worth keeping an eye on. If it gets a lot of volume, it only traded 69,000 shares yesterday. So if it gets any real good volume, this could be an opportunity for a day trade, and it could be a high risk swing on a pullback to 130 or so, right? You put your stop maybe, I don't know, below 116. Put it at 115, right? So more of a lottery type play, but pretty good looking setup there. I do find it kind of interesting. And it looks like it's a turnaround story, because I did read up a little bit on these guys, and it looks like they're kind of turning things around. So could be a turnaround play. Higher risk. JASN, I love this chart. Yeah, this was also sent to me by my buddy Woody, and good looking setup, man. I mean, it's a great looking setup. 50-day is over the 200-day, right? Had a big pop. I would imagine it was maybe off of earnings, been in consolidation mode, nice tight consolidation right at the $2 holla, looking to take out $2 with some conviction, with some volume. This only traded 38,000 shares yesterday, so very thin, illiquid, so you got to keep that in mind when you play this type of stock, right? 17 million shares in the float, not a big short interest, but a great looking technical setup, and maybe a swing on a pullback to $1.80, $1.70, somewhere in that area. Be even better if you pull back to $1.50. But you get a breakout over this trend line with some volume. Could be a nice day trading opportunity. Could be a good swing opportunity on a pullback to like around $1.70, and you put your stop below $1.50, right below the 200-day. But pretty good looking setup there on JASN. SVRA. Good looking setup. Had some news. This is grinding higher, flirting with the $13 holla. looks like a controlled move. I mean, it had a nice pop, consolidated, and now grinding higher. Could be a day trade opportunity. Could be you know, it's tough to take bios as a swing if you're not comfortable. I mean, these things can, you can wake up and have one bad headline and see this thing down 90%. So, uh, but pretty good looking setup here. Maybe a day trade on a break over 13 with some conviction. Only 18 million shares in the float. Traded 101,000 shares yesterday. At least worth having on the radar for a potential day trade. UTSI, great looking chart on the daily. Broke a little bit yesterday. Don't know what the news was or why it moved, but you know, taking out the $5 holla, right? It had a big pop, and this had a great looking chart. Tight consolidation, gap, consolidate, pop, consolidate, and popping again. We'll see if it gets any follow through. Maybe you look for a pullback to 475, 480, pullback, red to green move, and maybe go up and test somewhere in the 550 to 580 area. But pretty good looking setup on that one on the daily. SVA reported earnings and looks like they crushed it. And the stock is not really reacting to this to the earnings. 30 million shares in the float. Look at this tight formation right here at $8. I mean, take out $8 with conviction, could get interesting. Look for some volume. It traded 440,000 shares yesterday. Only has 30 million shares in the float. It is overbought, so I would say that. But the earnings look pretty impressive. Maybe a pullback to $7.80, red to green. Take out $8. Um, but pretty good looking setup there on SVA. Let me see what this is. I mean, $8 is a big spot to get through on the weekly time frame. You know, take out 8 with some conviction. I think this thing gets a test up to $9.50, possibly, maybe even $10. So, worth keeping an eye on SVA if it gets some real volume. Potential day trade on that one. INSG, Benzinga Pro, did a little. Looks like they did a interview with them yesterday after the close, talking about the Verizon 5G rollout. This is gapping a little bit off of that last night. Got up to about $1.98, $2. You know, if it's over the 200 day, it's been grinding its way higher. It is overbought, but you know, so maybe it needs to take a little breather. Could be a higher risk swing on a pullback to say the 200 day, $1.60. Look, or if it breaks out over $2, this could get a nice pop up into the $2.40 range. Kind of thinking on INSG, but definitely worth keeping an eye on this. Like I said, could be a swing on a pullback to $1.62, the 200-day test as support, or could be a day trade on a break over $2 with some conviction for a quick scalp. Let's take a look at CALX. I think CALX had some news after the close yesterday. Let me see. Oh, CFO bought 10,000 shares at $6.84. That was out this morning. So insider buy. You know, maybe look for a pullback into the $6 area, 625. See if that holds as support for a bounce. Let me see if this is getting any action in pre-market. CALX. Does not look as though it's getting any action in pre-market, but $6 or so, or 625, 630. See if that holds as area of support for a bounce. Does have an interesting look on the daily. Could be a swing, could be a day trade. We'll have to see how it plays out. It's only got 42 million shares in the float, but worth keeping an eye on it. CVRS. So this little robotics company. Actually, I was watching this weekend. Was going to put it on my stocks to watch list this week. It was it's consolidating just below this 200-day moving average. Had some news this morning. If this breaks over the 200-day, I think potentially you get a test up into about $1.70, where you've got a trend line that can act as some resistance. Had some news this morning about a partnership on a robotic training site. I don't know if that's going to pop this thing. I think it's more compelling on this one on a pullback to a buck or 85 cents, somewhere in that area, 89 cents. I think it gets more compelling as a potential swing, higher risk swing, because of the fact that it's a low dollar stock, right? But interesting, interesting look. It's been grinding higher. You got some insider buying activity. I think on a pullback to 89 cents could be an interesting spot to take it, or even a buck. You start to take a position there, or you take a position at $1, put your stop at 74 cents. Higher, like I said, higher risk swing, but could also be a day trade on a break over the 200-day with some volume. UQM had some news this morning. And I think, let me see if this was getting any action here. UQM did get a little pop up to $2, just over $2. Is pulling back to $1.75, and actually that's kind of what I was thinking, as a red to green move, a pullback to $1.75. But maybe what we look at is let's see, we've got a pivot at $1.62. We've got a pivot at $1.59. Maybe you look for a pullback to $1.55 or so, red to green move on this. Small float, 53 million shares in the float, and it looked like they had, I think they had decent earnings. But this has got a pretty interesting look as well. Keep an eye on UQM for a potential day trade. BMY, Bristol Myers, had some news after the close. Full disclosure, I'm in this with a swing, or actually long-term hold, I should say. Pull back to $60. If this were to pull back to $60, it appears to me that 60 has been holding as good support. I've been in it since down here, and actually it was down here. And look, on a pullback to $60, I think I would probably add to my position. What I'm looking for is a gap fill on the daily. Eventually, I do think we fill that gap. Back up into the $70 area, $72 area. From where it's at, that's a pretty nice move. And this news looked like pretty good news to me today. If this pulls back to $60 off of this good news, I would look at that as an opportunity to add to my position. And let's see what else we got. QURE, great looking setup on the daily. Caught an upgrade from HC Wainwright, $28 price target. I have been watching this one since it did its offering. Big pop, priced at $18.25, so you know that they don't need to do another offering. It's been holding above the 50-day moving average, consolidating nicely, looking for a trend line break, but this is a pretty hot looking setup on QURE. That could be a day trade or a higher risk swing, I think. Try to get it as close to $14 as an entry as possible. REPR, no. LRAD, this is a devil stock for me. I actually took a hit in this one a long time ago, so I kind of don't like this company very much. But it was my bad. I just traded it poorly. LRAD is got an interesting look on the daily. Look, maybe on a pullback to $2 or $1, $1.90 or so as an entry. You got support here at the 100 EMA. You got some price support in that area. You put your stop, say at maybe 175 or 174, just below the 200-day moving average. You look for this to take out this trend line and go test 250 or so. It's a good looking setup on the daily. You got the 50 crossing over the 200. They announced a new contract. I mean, it's aerospace defense. I like the sector. It's worth keeping an eye on. LRAD could be a day trade. I would not chase it. Look for a good intraday setup, but ideally as close to $2 for an entry as possible on LRAD. And then I'm going to end this with uh, three oil and gas names. So NOG, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. NOG, popped right at the end of the day yesterday, broke over and closed above the 200-day moving average, closed above this longer term trend line here. So oil and gas names looking pretty good, right? So 48.7 million shares in the float, 15% short interest. I think these guys have a lot of debt, right? And the same thing with GST. Hold on a second. GST closed above its 200-day off of a pop and good volume yesterday, right? So testing the $1 holla, maybe get a red to green on GST. And EVEP was another one that moved yesterday. So three low priced oil and gas stocks. I think all of these have a lot of debt, but good volume. This one didn't quite go up and test its 200-day yesterday, but could be heading for a dollar test. These could be day trading scalp opportunities or high risk lotto swings because of their debt situations and so forth and so on. It's going to be tied to oil. Oil rises, these things could potentially move, but worth keeping an eye on all three of those names. All right, look, don't chase anything. Have a plan for every trade. If you like what I do, come check us out over at alphawolftrading.com. We have annual membership that, like, I'm not going to run a bunch of crazy promotions. Just, I know it's cheap, $3.99 a year. You pay for it in one or two trades, swing trades that are posted before I take the entry. It's all, and we've got a great community of people. So come check us out. All right, have a fantastic day trading and a great weekend, and I'll see y'all next week. Oh, actually, I'll have the stocks to watch for trading and investing out this week, 5 and 5.